Looks like our Incog X from Haley Strategic just arrived.
Hey there, tactical people. So I wanted to come at you with a little bit of a less scripted, a little more raw first week opinion on the Haley Strategic Safariland Incog X. So I picked this up on Black Friday, paid for it with my own money. But the reason I picked it up is because it is supposed to work very well with the Icarus Precision offering. So my everyday carry is the Icarus Precision Evo, which has the thumb ledges, the ambidextrous thumb ledges, and the double undercuts. And I am using a TLR7A on my weapon mount as a weapon mounted light. And Travis did a video showing it working with our macro version. So I wanted to come in and pick up one. And as you can see, it's got nice, good retention for the Icarus Precision Evo and macro line, which was very nice. And I've been on this quest, you know, always looking to find the newest and best gear, not just for cool purposes, but to be practical, right? So for the longest time, I carried actually this Triad holsters. And I actually really did like this holster, but I was convinced, and rightly so, that moving to a holster with a wing for additional ammo is a good idea. And after kind of really looking at the value of that, I decided that was the way I wanted to roll. And so I actually moved up to a Tier 1 Axis Elite. And the reason I'm showing these, even though this is about the Incog, is to look at some comparisons, right? But I moved up to the Axis Elite from Tier 1 Concealment, and this was a good holster. It lasted me quite a while until I decided to move to the Incog. And this is a macro holster. So it worked well. It didn't have quite the same retention for the Icarus setup, but this was running as a good system for me. So, you know, it was a kind of a question as, is it worth it for me to pick up the Haley Strategic Incog X? But Black Friday came around. There was a little bit of a discount on it, and I decided to give it a go. So this thing came in, and I jotted down some of the things I really like about it, and then some things that might be some criticisms. So again, as far as the Icarus Precision goes, it fits wonderfully. Keep in mind, I believe that's only with a weapon-mounted light. I don't know if the one without the light will fit as well. But so far, this thing's been pretty darn comfortable. I haven't had to put any wedges or padding on it. And part of that is the outside material, actually. So I'll admit I didn't do an amazing ton of research on this before I picked it up. I just thought it was a great holster. And when it came in, and I actually went back and read the description a little more, this is actually a microfiber suede exterior. So you figure this thing's going to be against not just your skin, but your waist, your pelvic area, right? So supposedly they market it as sweat wicking and so forth, but really it's just a nice change of pace from holsters that are just straight up Kydex or Boltaron. So this is a Boltaron liner with a microfiber suede exterior. And it's actually pretty darn comfortable so far. It's very nicely contoured and everything. So in the week I've had it, I've had truly no complaints so far with comfortability. It's very clean, just looking overall compared to some others. Like absolutely not talking anything bad about the Tier 1 concealment, but if you notice, like, it's very ridged. It's got lots of kind of edges and contours and stuff. Some people might like that look, but I really like just the clean, smooth look of this holster. Again, I mean, realistically, you and potentially somebody attacking you are going to be the only people realistically seeing this holster, unless you're flashing it off on Instagram or YouTube in this case. But when it comes down to it, you're putting something down your pants, and it just seems like the more streamlined it is, the nicer it's going to be. We already talked about it a little bit, but the retention on this is very nice. Again, I'll shut up this time and see if you can hear this, but that nice click. It's got a very nice, solid, good retention, which is obviously something that can be very important in a holster, especially one that's like a level 1 retention holster. Friction fit, basically. And something that's really kind of cool about this particular retention, not that it's really needed, but I just find it as like this subtle, nice added bonus, is if you notice on the mag caddy here and on the back side here, the tension screws are actually singled out in red washers, right? So there's no guessing. I mean, not that it should be hard to figure out, but there's no guessing as to where you take your screwdriver to get more or less retention. So it's just a nice little subtle thing that I noticed and appreciated. So setting the retention was quite easy, getting it to a point that I liked. We already talked about it being very slim, but another thing is there's no real jagged edges, right? Most of the holsters, not that I carry, but some holsters I've seen in the past have, strangely enough, like sharper edges. In my video on appendix carry, I talk about possibly modifying your holsters, using the dreaded no-no Dremel tool to sand off some edges, obviously as long as it doesn't affect retention or the safety, covering the trigger and so forth. But Haley and Safariland did a pretty good job. There's no aggressively sharp edges anywhere. Everything's nice and smooth. And again, sticking things down your pant line, you want to be comfortable. So there's not a lot of wasted space on here. The clips are very solid. And what I mean by that, they're obviously like an injection molded particular plastic clip, but they retain the retention on them on the belt is very good. I've dealt with some clips in the past that just a little bit of tension or pressure pulling up on them would allow the holster to unseat. But the up vertical on the clips themselves really hold onto that belt quite well. And it takes a little bit, not hard, but it takes a little bit of extra effort and dexterity to actually get these to pop off from the belt, which I see as a good thing. It's not anything uncomfortable. It's not anything that takes a lot of extra time. It's just that much more solid, in my opinion. The claw size, it's really easy to change, actually. Most claws have some type of screw system or something to change that thickness and variation. But this system, it comes with a couple of settings extra, and you can change it based on just popping one of them out and inserting another one. So you can choose between like a low profile, medium, and a tall profile claw as you so see fit. So the adjustability, like if it's not working for you, you don't have to sit there and unscrew and try another one and rescrew it on. You just pop it off, and it makes it really, really simple. And then of course, this is trending with most manufacturers these days, but this thing is optic compatible, and that's kind of important. Most people, I have no statistical information to back that up, but I think most people are trending towards optics. There's a large benefit to that. This is not an optic video, so I'm not going to jump into that, but it's inherently optic friendly. So a lot of good positives to this holster, and so far I am not regretting my purchase. But with that being said, I do want to get into a couple of, what I would argue is small criticisms, right? Small things that either are kind of tweaking me a little bit, or I think somebody else might find to be a small bit of a pain. But the first thing starting off, yeah, I suppose this could be a Pro 2 based on weight distribution, but this thing is wide. This thing is very, very wide comparatively. If you look at it compared again, the reason I keep using Tier 1 concealed is 1, because I have it, and 2, it's a very prevalent manufacturer. But if you compare apples to apples, and I'll do a close-up of this in video, like it's comparatively significantly wider. You know, even if you look at the individual single part, you know, comparatively, claw to claw, it's wider than a single gun holster as well. You know, again, that could be a positive if you look at it for like weight distribution, but the clips are on the main gun holster as opposed to the mag caddy. So again, it's more of a distribution across your belt line. So I put it as a criticism. It could be both a plus or a minus, but it is something that I noticed. It is much wider. So potentially on somebody that doesn't have as much girth as some of us might find this a little wide for their liking. Another small criticism, the claw. So the system is all one piece. The clip into the claw, into the attachment piece on the holster itself. It's all one piece of plastic. And I find because it's attached to the clip that it's a very rigid setup, which sounds like it's what you want. But I noticed then when I was putting it in my belt line, and I'm using a core gun belt, which is a relatively good gun belt, everyday carry belt. It was actually just pushing my belt further out as opposed to taking that handle of the grip back. So counterintuitively, actually, I'm on, I think, the lowest profile setting for the claw, which is pushing that belt out a little bit less, which is making it, for me at least, a little more comfortable. You know, I don't have as much stress pulling on that belt line from my dominant side. But that's just something I've noticed, that it's a very stiff claw, and because it's attached to the clip and directly to the holster all as one piece, that it doesn't, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing and feeling, it doesn't act the same as a separate claw. Another gripe, and this is a little bit on the bigger side for me, but I haven't wound up with too much of a problem, is ride height adjustability. I mean, really, especially with the mag caddy. I wanted my mag caddy to run a little bit higher, so I had to adjust the ride height. That kind of forced me into a higher clip height, which drops down the gun a little bit. Now, that being said, I am now running it in the second setting up with the clips dropped as far as they can, and I'm actually finding it to be very, very comfortable. But what I'm getting at is that there's not a lot of adjustability. So if you're one of those guys that really likes it deep, you know, you might run into some trouble. Or if you like it really, really high, you might run into some trouble. This is a nice, solid midline. Like the adjustability is probably an inch or less overall. I'm not having a problem with it, but there is not a lot of adjustability overall. And especially with the mag carrier, right? So I wanted to pop up the mag carrier. I know this was made for the macro, but I've been using my 12-round magazines as my backup mag. And so I wanted it to sit a little bit higher because the magazine wasn't as long. And there's only so high you can go with this mag caddy because of this ridge on the back where the tension portion is. So there's only so high you can get with this mag caddy. And that creates a little bit of a bottleneck as to how much adjustability and versatility you have. Speaking of the mag caddy, I do like it's so if you haven't seen this in person, it actually has a good amount of play to it, which is nice because obviously as we're expanding, contracting, breathing, you know, it kind of acts like the elastic from the Tier 1 Concealed or the hinge from T-Rex or the buttons from Tier 1 Concealed. But it keeps it a little bit more rigid with less Y-axis flexibility, if you will. I do think, again, based on it being so wide, I think that if this was brought in a little bit, maybe more, it could possibly be nice and not so wide. But I am liking the retention of the mag carrier so far. I'm liking the comfortability of it. But you do have a limit as far as kind of the ride height of the mag caddy. And kind of like really lastly, the only other real criticism I have, and it's a very superficial one, only comes in one color. Gray. So if you are one of those bougie people that wants, you know, super high tech, Cryptek Highlander or digital camo or whatever, at least as of right now, you're plumb out of luck. You get gray microfiber suede. Now, again, unless you're showing this thing off on Instagram or YouTube, realistically, this is between you and any attackers you might have that are going to see this. So that's not a big deal, just stating that they only really have the one color. But again, this is my first week kind of review on this thing. So far, I am liking it, even with those small criticisms I talked about. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. And if I run into any more issues, perhaps I'll do an update. But I think I'm going to enjoy this thing overall. I think it's going to serve my purposes and my needs as I go along. But so far, it's been a pretty solid purchase and I am not regretting it. With all that being said, be sure to check out SPG1Tactical.com where you can find S2S 5-in-1 Gun Lube. You can find shirts and shirt designs, and we also do custom work. So if you're looking for custom shirts, shoot us an email through the site. Check out the other YouTube videos. Check out our Instagram. I've been trying to stay pretty active over there. And on there you can also find endorsed gear, affiliates that I'm working with. I'm trying to start a book club on there as well, based on books that I've read where there can be some discussion. So go ahead and check out SPG1Tactical.com. If you're looking for quality training and you are willing to either travel to the Mid-Atlantic area or live near the Mid-Atlantic area, check out Intuitive Self-Protection at intuitivesp.com, or check out the Facebook page where you can look up Intuitive Self-Protection, and you will find videos, testimonials, photos, and all kinds of stuff based around training, everyday training for the uncommon training for the everyday person. We do some really good stuff with that as well. So check out intuitivesp.com. And until next time, stay safe, stay smart, stay tactical, my friends.